Hey Sarah, how's it going?
Good, Toby. How are you?
I'm good. So, for everyone tuning in, we're hanging out today again with the incredible Sarah Wu of Village Witches. She has a course coming up in September called Permaculture for the Herbalist Path in Guatemala at Titlan Organics. And she's also going to be a guest teacher on NuMundo's upcoming Conscious Travel Academy, which is an online learning program for all of you current travelers and future travelers. So today is part one of a three-part series that we're doing called Wellness on the Road. And Sarah, not only are you an expert herbalist, but you're also a very well-traveled woman. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct.
So, so what I guess to start out, why does wellness matter on the road? Why is this something we should be talking about?
Well, we're traveling. Sometimes we don't take care of ourselves the same way that we do when we're in some kind of a routine, right? Like when you're grounded, excuse me, in a home, an apartment, like in your community, wherever you are, it's really easy to be like in your morning routine of making tea, your meditation practice, of doing your yoga practice, your herbs, your supplements, cooking how you want, all those. It's like we go on the road, or we really want to travel, or for some of us who are living on the road, like I live on the road a few months a year. I travel, and then I'm grounded other months of the year, or traveling throughout Costa Rica. And so, it's like you start traveling, and then your whole routine falls apart, and we fall into states of imbalance, or we can be, subjected to dis-ease, whether it's like travel stress, by putting yourself in a plane and hurling yourself through the air, at thousands of miles an hour in a metal can filled with, recycled around all these other dirty human beings, or like just, being in a new country where you're not familiar with the food. It's a whole new microbiome, maybe water sources that aren't super reliable. And so, the big part of being well on the road and having like a travel med kit or a travel apothecary is really to maximize your experience. You're not like stuck in your Airbnb or in your rental or with your friends or in your hostel or whatever, and you're sick. It's like, how can we just really enjoy the experience and return back to where home is, if you're returning to home, or to your next destination, and also a state of wellness, mental wellness, physical wellness, like spiritual wellness.
There's really nothing worse than being sick or being unwell or under the weather on the road. It's you want to avoid that.
You're not, you want to avoid that. So it's really about, preventative care while you're on the road, but then also about like, what are your acute remedies that you have for like the very basic things that we're going to go through that you can experience in all different kinds of bioregions. But you also have, like constitutional support. So everyone has, we're all human beings in a human body, but we have different ways of metabolizing food. We have different ways of sleeping. So different ways of how we, go to the bathroom every day. Like a lot of people will get a traveler's constipation when they're on the road, or they get really nervous and get diarrhea, or they'll get insomnia, sleep well. And so it's also about how to take care of your specific needs.
Great. So you call it a traveler's apothecary. Why apothecary and not, I don't know, birth aid kit or medicine bag?
I call it a med kit too, or a medicine bag. The apothecary is like someone who dispenses herbs. Originally was the apothecary, herbs and minerals, and then it's shifted now into pharmacy, which is the distribution of pharmaceutical drugs, over the counter and prescription drugs. And so apothecary is just a term that I really like for people to have in their vocabulary, one, because it's talking about this a little bit more of like a holistic distribution of plants and use of medicines through plants and minerals and homeopathic formulas. The apothecary is very, very diverse as well. So we could call it a medicine kit, but I like the apothecary.
I like it too. I just wanted to know your answer. So let's get into it. This is a good moment to mention, if you're watching this to get some new information, you might want to take notes, because Sarah is about to drop a lot of knowledge.
And we will have, if you're going to do the Conscious Travel Academy, if you register for that program, you'll also be able to get this plus much, much more, because what we're going to talk about today is like just little bits and pieces, because we have different kinds of travel, right? You have like your day trip, like when we're off this, I'm actually going to go to Chiripo, which is the highest mountain in Costa Rica, and we're going to visit a shiitake mushroom project. So, it's like, okay, what are the few things that we might need just for the day? And then we have, like travel. Some people can only take a week or 10 days. A lot of people will have maybe like a 2-week paid vacation that they can take every year. And then there's people like you and I, Toby, who are very flexible and we work on the road. And a lot of people probably watching this who also work nomadically or in a migratory fashion, where you're on a long-term travel plan. And then people have different modes of travel. Like some people have like multiple check bags or a big check bag and a backpack and everything that they're traveling around with, like me. I'm not a very good lightweight packer. And then there's some people who, carry on. And so if you're just doing a carry-on, you have to be really mindful of like, okay, I have X number of kilos or pounds, I have X number of space that I can bring. And also within that, the carry-on bag, it's the liquid limitation. So it's also thinking, like, what can I have in my apothecary that's going to be very efficient, that's going to have this term called a stacking function, which is a permaculture term, which is like layering on many different functions into one medicine. And so how can I maximize the efficiency and the potential to bring wellness with this one medicine? So we're going to talk about a few of those as well. So there's some key components to your apothecary as you're building it. One, definitely go back to size and how is it going to be easy for you to consume these things, easy for you to travel. So like sometimes when I'm traveling extra heavy, which I do sometimes, especially when I'm on longer term travel, a little neurotic. And also we're going to be, one of the part series will be about reducing plastic consumption. So I just have like a bag of metal travel stuff with me. I'm buying plastic and I have all my own cutlery and everything. And so when I'm on longer term travel, I will actually have like a little toolbox. It's like my little art case from college that has transformed into a travel apothecary. Sometimes I'll just have a little toiletry bag. It really is variable, also depending on where I'm going to be. If I'm going to be in a country where I'm not exactly sure what I'll be able to find, I might pack a little heavier. If I'm in a country, I'm like, oh, I know I'll be able to hit a health food store. I know there's great markets. I know that there's like local herbalists and that I know some of the bioregion that I could maybe go and wildcraft. I might pack less because I'll be able to get what I need in that country. So it takes a little bit of like a due diligence and research, before you even leave on like what you might need.
And we are going to talk about some local solutions and options a bit later today as well. So we'll circle back to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So like when you're doing some of your due diligence before traveling, I would look up like, travel blogs and those kinds of things of like, what are some of the common ailments that people get when they're traveling in these specific countries? So say, you are in North America. So in Costa Rica here, a lot of the travelers come during the North American or the temperate winters into our tropical climate. So a lot of people will be quite scared of like tropical diseases, but what really happens is people get the flu. It's the flu coming from. And so, that's something to be aware of is like, okay, is it flu season right now? Am I going to Guatemala, where 90% of the water in Guatemala is contaminated by feces, animal and human feces? Like water security in that country is a really big issue. And so knowing like, okay, there's water insecurity. How am I going to make sure that my water is purified? How am I going to make sure that my digestive system stays really strong? Or you're going, like last year I was all over the place and I went to Scotland, and so in Scotland it was cold, it was in the Highlands. I needed to make sure I had warming things with me, not just warm clothes, but medicinal plants that were going to support my internal thermometer, so I wouldn't get sick. So I was hiking, I was going to be exposed to like wind, rain, higher altitudes, those kinds of things. You're going to Peru, for example, you're going to be in higher altitude. So there's higher altitude sickness. And so being aware of like, well, what can I bring with me, or what can I get in that country that's going to support those kinds of ailments? So it does take a little bit of work just to see, like what is up, like what are people dealing with, locals and travelers, right? So you have some key components, like very basic key components to your Travelers Apothecary. The first one are antibiotics and disinfectants. And when I say antibiotics, we're talking about herbal antibiotics, which are the same thing as pharmaceutical antibiotics, except they're broader spectrum. And so your herbal antibiotics are going to be killing bacterias without judgment. You know, they're going to be targeting bad bacteria. They're also going to be targeting some of your beneficial bacteria. So we're not taking herbal antibiotics prophylactically. We're taking them as needed. We do have like immune support as well, which, you know, you can take prophylactically, which we'll also get into. And then disinfectants. And so disinfectants are things like to be able to wash your hands, you know, and very basics of just like hand care and washing your hands. If you don't have soap, actually just doing this, like briskly for 20 seconds, pretending you're washing your hands is breaking the cells to bacterias, which is a cleansing act. And so if you have like water that's not contaminated or no soap or just nothing at all, again, just doing this, really brisk, you're cleaning your hands. But then there's other disinfectants like, you know, like little alcohol sprays or having a little Travelers iodine with you, or many of our essential oils, all of our essential oils actually are also antibiotic. And so you can stack the function that way with some of your other things we're going to talk about that are in your kit. And then we have digestive support, right? And digestive support, again, we're going to get into some details of this, but we're just like, these are the key components. And so the digestive support, this is for constipation. It could be for diarrhea. You know your own body and like what you tend to deal with in times of stress. And a lot of times when we're very stressed out and traveling, constipation is probably the most common thing people get. But some people will get diarrhea as well when they're feeling very nervous or anxious with traveling. So knowing your own body, but also knowing that like, you know, I may be in a country again where the food's very new. Maybe I have a food allergy, but I'm in, you know, France and there's dairy everywhere and the dairy's delicious. So dairy, you know, knowing that like, okay, I'm going to be suffering a little bit to the savor in the local cuisine. And so being prepared for yourself, and then what also might be present in that country. And then, you know, with our traveler's kit, it's for ourselves, but it's also like if there's other people in need also. And then we have like pain relievers and anti-inflammatories, whether it's like headaches, you're dehydrated from traveling, you know, it's like you have a long bus ride. A lot of times you're not drinking a lot of water because you're going to have to pee. You don't know when to pee, where you're going to have to go. And so a lot of people do get dehydrated in travel because of that reason. Then you get headaches, or if you're sitting for long periods of time, getting very, very achy, you know, maybe getting swellings in the feet, edema, that kind of stuff. So, you know, having like some anti-inflammatories and pain relievers, or if like you're going on adventure travel and you're like hiking, you're rock climbing, you're jumping off waterfalls, you're whatever you're doing, you know, there's also opportunities to get hurt and get a little banged up and bruised. So it's thinking about what is the remedies I'm going to have available for that. And we're talking about our natural apothecary right now and Travelers Med Kit. I'm definitely going to mention a few over-the-counter pharmaceuticals, which are available in pretty much every single country that you're going to be able to also get for yourself, but that you might want to make sure to have just in case. And then we have like anxiety and stress relievers. That's very obvious, like what those are for. Travel stress, you know, it's feeling anxious, maybe meeting new people. You're traveling solo and, you know, and you get a little like nervous about going to meet new people. And so like what's going to take that edge off so you can just really be present in your new situation. Throat and lung care is a very big one when you're traveling, especially because, you know, like what comes in through the nose, the mouth, you know, not eating, but also air. And when we're traveling like this and we're in public transportation, whether you're in metro systems, on buses, the tube, like you're flying, you're wherever you are, you're taking Ubers, you're in taxis, it's like you're being exposed to other people's germs that enter through the mouth and through the nose. And so it's really, really important to also be able to take care of your respiratory system as well. And then our basic wound care is another one that we want to consider when we're traveling. And again, I'm going to get into some of that. And it's, you know, wound care, maybe more if you're be more concerned about having everything you need if you're doing more adventure travel, you know, like if you're kind of just like digital nomading a little bit, your chance for a wound might be a little bit less. So just being judicious about what you are going to be experiencing in those places. And then some people you might want to also consider allergies, like if you're a hypersensitive person or you have, you know, responses to foods or to animals or to new pollens. Like if you're allergic to pollens in a familiar bioregion, you're probably going to be allergic to pollens in a non-familiar bioregion as well, and you might not even know what they are. And so it's also like some of the due diligence of travel is like, what's the season like? We're going to be traveling in spring. Are there flowers out? Are there pollens at this time of year? Is it very, very humid there that there might actually be mold that you're going to be exposed to? And so thinking about allergy symptoms as well, and knowing your own self. And then with digestive, I want to put in there that some people get motion sick very, very easily. And so being very mindful of like, okay, I'm going to be on public trans and I don't have control maybe over which seat I'm sitting in. You know, I can't sit in the front seat so I can see directly, or I'm not driving. And so, you know, motion sickness is a real thing for people too. And then we have different like classifications of all the medicines that you could have in your traveler's kit. So we have what are called tinctures, and tinctures are alcohol extracts or sometimes a glycerin extract, and they're typically stored in glass. And so right there you have a liquid and you have a glass. And so what is that? That's weight in your travel kit. You can shift into plastic, but if you're going to be putting any alcohol tinctures into plastic, really make sure that's a higher quality plastic, not like that real soft, flimsy stuff, just because it could leach out toxic chemicals into your medicines, and then you're kind of like making your medicine move like it doesn't. It's the point of taking something toxic if you're trying to make yourself well. So again, thinking about the high quality high quality plastic, or knowing that you're going to be traveling with glass and liquid. The other option is dried plant material, or dried powders like your vitamins and minerals. With teas and dried plant materials, as long as it's very powdered, typically if things are in a packaged tea bag, you're going to have no problem crossing borders. Sometimes in some countries, if you're crossing borders with bulk herbs, like I'm always traveling with like my and other herbs, and I have gotten stopped and people are like, what is this? You know, this is I'll use it for this and that. But if there's seeds, if there's flowers in there, some countries could confiscate it at their own discretion. And so it's happening in Costa Rica. If you're going into countries like Australia, you're probably not going to be able to bring teas and seeds and flowers and those kinds of things, just because of introduction of other species into an island country.
You're making me rethink everything that's in my herb bag right now. Just thinking, you just listed so many things that could get taken away from me.
But also, okay, so there's a trick that I have, which goes soy invisible. So I'm invisible. That works 90-something% of the time. And I believe in plants without borders, so I'm regularly like knock on carbon, like bringing things that maybe shouldn't be crossing borders across borders. So you can, with your teas or dried plant material, it's going to be a little bulkier sometimes. It really depends on like what you're carrying and how much of it you need to take to make sure that you're well. But what they're going to be a lot lighter. And so you want to be thinking about like, okay, where am I going? Will I have access to refill my medicines if I need to in these places? And if I don't, how concentrated then do I need to bring my medicine so it's going to last me? And I'll do that a lot of times. Like with some of my supplements I take, I'll count out exactly how many I'm going to need for my travel, and then I'll consolidate them into a different jar instead of having like three or four different bottles of supplement. You can have pills with you, like encapsulated or pressed pills. They're easy because they typically they're not going to get looked at the border. They don't get red flagged, those kinds of things, and they can be a little lighter to travel with as well, though they can get bulky depending on the jars that you're in. And so then like lozenges are another form of medicine that's really, really good, especially for the sore throat, respiratory system, immune system. But lozenges, where you have to be mindful, is if you're in a very humid country or you're traveling in a place where there's a lot of insects, like if you're traveling in the tropics, India, Southeast Asia, Latin America, if you're carrying something that's sweet, like a lozenge, you can expect your bag to get raided by some critter, or getting exposed to like that humid environment, and they'll start to like decay and get gross really fast, and you'll have like a mush ball in your bag. And it's happened so many times.
Yum.
Then we have things like salves, and salves are like kind of like a thicker lotion or cream. They have a wax base in there. Those are a little heavier. Usually they're stored in glass or plastic, but a little bit goes really, really far. And those could be respiratory health.
I have an example of a salve right here.
I know. I was just thinking. I don't have a.
I actually, my little bag is right next to me on this table, so this is an example of an antiseptic balm with beeswax and propolis and tea tree oil and a few other
Nice.
good
One
things.
thing you want to be mindful of with salves and with oils, especially if we're coming from countries where CBD is legal, being really mindful that CBD is in a lot of our formulas now,
Mm-hmm.
but in some countries it's still illegal. So being really mindful of that. I had a friend who was stopped in Bali for a CBD salve, and she was like testing positive for having like drugs on her by like the smell, and they were testing her hands and she's like, I don't smoke weed. Like I don't have anything on me that would have cannabis in it. But they're like, you do, it's on you. And they couldn't find what it was, but it was her salve that had CBD in it, which like registered for her. And that's in a country where you could go to jail, like quick. Like enter into Indonesia and there's a big sign that's like, if you're carrying drugs, like you're done, and CBD counts because it's illegal. And so while we think it's this amazing medicine, it's benign legally, it's okay to travel with, it's not the case anymore. And so, or not the case in every country. So being really mindful of that. Or like if you're using kratom or kratom, tomato, where it's not even really known about in Latin America, we're growing it here in the US, it's not scheduled yet, it may be scheduled. But for example, in the European Union, it is scheduled and it's illegal to carry it then. And so it's also be really mindful about your plants and like what could possibly get you into trouble if you're traveling with it. And then we have oils, and oils, same as our tinctures, they're heavy and it's liquid and they have a denser kind of form to them, and so
and they're messy.
Plastic, they can be messy, and so who hasn't had like a bottle of oil explode in your bag? So it's worse than shampoo exploding in your bags. It stains your clothes. And so being really mindful of oil, but it is nice to have a little carrier oil with you, especially like for myself, my face care is oil. So I'm always like squeezing the cap on really tight and double bagging thing. And now, which I just invested in, me and my partner Lala, what we just invested in were those silicone zippy bags that you can put them in the oven, you can wash them, all this kind of stuff to get rid of the plastic bags that, you can make them last a while, but these silicone bags look pretty hardcore. And I was like pulling it apart in the store to see if I could break it. Couldn't. So, it's also like investing in a nice container to hold your potential spills. So then, yeah.
I didn't even mean to be prepared. I just have all of this sitting here.
You're a good drinker. And so then essential oils. So essential oils are also liquids that are in glass, never in plastic. And nice, but they're highly concentrated and a little goes a really long way. Oh, look, here's one of these fun little silicone bags.
Oh, I saw those the other day.
Sure. Yeah. Look at these. And so they're for like snack. You can put your medicines in there and they seal really nice for liquid. And they're reusable and they're much tougher than a plastic bag. So this is one of like the investments that we did for summer traveling. And we'll be talking about that again in our other plastic-free travel section. So essential oils are nice because they're highly concentrated. They're stacking functions. Like we're going to talk about a few of them as we keep going. But they are in glass. And so it's just, and they do need to be diluted. So it's just something to be mindful of when most of them need to be diluted when you're traveling with essential oils. But I really like traveling with a few essential oils because they're small and you get like, stacking function and just like a big hit for a little bit of medicine at a time. We have like vitamins and minerals. You can take those, like if it's a constitutional support for you, like you have a multivitamin, you're vegan, you want to take a B12, it's like you want like your vitamins and supplements. Like I said, what I usually do is I count out how much I'm going to need more or less for the amount of time I'm going to be gone. And then there's some like very basic things like zinc and vitamin C and vitamin E, that you can buy over the counter pretty much everywhere. The quality that you're going to get, you may have to, or what you want versus what you might have available to you is going to be variable depending on the country that you're in. Like if you're in the US or Canada, you're in the EU, like you're going to have access to a lot more. than you would maybe if you're traveling in Africa, if you're traveling in certain parts of Latin America. Not all parts, but certain parts. If you're in countries, Southeast Asian countries, you might just be exposed to all new things that you've never seen before, and you can't read the package. And so, it's those kinds of things you want to be thinking about. But then there's certain, minerals that we're also going to get to, which are very important for acute care, for like maintaining health when like you're exposed to something, like dirty water or or you cut yourself through you're playing outside. And then we have homeopathic remedies, and homeopathic remedies are awesome because they're legal, like everywhere. Like they're very, very common. They're accessible in many different countries, especially if you're in the EU. Like the homeopathics are very, very common there, and you can find whatever you need. They're lightweight. They're not going to set dogs off, or customs agents aren't going to look at them like they're anything. And it takes a little bit, goes really, really far. So some people may opt to travel just with homeopathic remedies. And then we have like our basic pharmaceuticals. And again, the pharmaceuticals are for like severe cases. And I don't always travel with a lot of pharmaceuticals, but I do have some that are in my kit that are also pretty much available over the counter in most places that you're going to go, or something that's an analog, which has the same function, but it might not be the exact same thing you want. And so we also want to consider that with our plants, our vitamins, our minerals, our essential oils, like when we're out, like, looking at plants and the landscape, or we're in local markets, it's trying to think about like, okay, it's not exactly what I have, but does it serve the same function? And so that's called an analog. And so it's really fun for me when I go into new places is to find those analogs of the plants and the remedies that I really love. Do you have any questions or anything like that so far? Any questions from the audience?
Let's check. We have Nick saying hello. We have Susie saying hello. Lori saying thank you. Claudia saying hello, beautiful. These are all for you, by the way.
If anyone has questions, feel free to like plug them in the comments, and then as we get to them, we'll get to them best we can. Okay, so some details about these different categories that we just went through. So we have our antibiotics and our disinfectants. One of my favorite ones that's available in so many different places is propolis. And so bee propolis is the antiseptic that bees use to protect the hive. Now, when you're buying propolis, because of hive collapse and all that, you want to buy from a local beekeeper. It's really, really important that we support local beekeepers. And so buying from a smaller brand, best you can, going to local farmers markets. Like the second you land in a place, one of the first things I do is I find the health food store and I find the market. Whether it's like a central market, it's always like present in the city, or like the local farmers markets. Those are my go-tos like right away. And so go to the market and get the local bee propolis, or buy it before you go. But so propolis can be used internally as an antiseptic, an antibiotic, for digestive health, for throat care. So like so this is a stacking function plant, right? Or actually not plant, it's a stacking function bee product. And so, you can put a little bit of it in water and gargle it for mouthwash, for, infected gums. I wouldn't put it in the sinuses in a neti pot. It's a little too sticky and weird for that, but really good for digestive. So like a diarrhea is an antibiotic, upset belly is an antibiotic, lung care, not as much either, but we will mention a few other ones that are beneficial for the lungs. And then propolis can also be used externally for a wound. So it's like you fell and you have like a road rash, you have a minor animal bite, you don't want to put it into a deep animal wound because it's a puncture wound, and you don't want to seal it from the top like you got bit by a dog, something like that. You wouldn't want to use propolis right away. You could maybe put it in the wash, but I wouldn't put it directly on. But propolis is very, very beneficial. Another favorite is called berberis, and so this is barberry, and this is very common in temperate climates. I would recommend for folks, if you're in a country where you have access to a lot of plants now before you travel, berberis is amazing, and so it's very ethical to use. Some of its analogs would be something like golden seal, which some people may be familiar with, but that's an endangered plant species, and so we want to be very mindful on how and where we're getting our golden seal from. And then the other one is Oregon grapefruit, which is also very popular, but it's also kind of going into threatened status, and so we want to be very mindful of that as well. So I tend towards berberis because we're using the leaves. We don't have to pull up roots to use these plants, and this is a very amazing antibiotic for staph infections, for digestive imbalance, diarrhea, for food poisoning. You could even use it for parasitic conditions. It's not as strong, but it's beneficial. Another favorite I have is called usnea. And again, all these names, you can get these if you register for the Conscious Travel Academy. Did I say that right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, perfect. And but some of these are available in many different bioregions as well. Usnea is also called old man's beard, and so it's a lichen that can be found in North America. We find it here in Costa Rica. It can be found in European countries, and it's a really great antibiotic as well as a immune supportive. And so it's a lichen, which is a mix between a fungi and an algae, which is pretty amazing. And then a very common one is echinacea. And so echinacea also can be found in many, many different countries. It is an immune supportive, so you're not going to take it necessarily as a preventative. Maybe right before you get on the plane, you could take a nice big hit of echinacea. But it's a good one to have in your kit, especially if you are very reactive to insect bites, if you get bit by an animal, if you're exposed, to respiratory, like there's someone sitting next to you on the plane, on the bus, or on the train, they're like hacking up a lung. Taking something like echinacea would be beneficial for you.
We have some questions, Sarah. Can you get berberis over the counter?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All of these can be purchased over the counter in most health food stores. You can buy online. Like if you're in, I'm not sure what the demographic of everyone watching this is, but one of my favorites in the States, it's called Mountain Rose Herbs. And Mountain Rose Herbs is a very ethical, high quality herbal supplier. Here in Costa Rica, we bring it in from the US and we keep it in quantity here because it's not from this country. So, but it's one we really love to have in our apothecaries.
And Lala wants to know if we had to choose 3, what would they be? I'm guessing she means 3 herbs.
3 herbs for antibiotics? Oh,
from
we'll
our
get
kit.
There. Okay, we'll hold on to that question.
And okay, and someone else wants to see your travel kit, so we'll circle back.
Okay. I also have, on my Instagram, you have to scroll down a little bit, but I have like pictures of my travel kit and a whole big list there too. And so my Instagram, because I'm not the only village witch, is copy leftly, is _village.witch_. And so, so you can go there also and find it.
And we'll link to that in the comments after the webinar.
So one of the most common disinfectants that you can find everywhere is salt. And so salt water is amazing. Gargle for the throat, in a neti pot for your sinuses. If you don't have a neti pot, you can actually just make like a little salt and water, but you really, if you're going to put it into your sinuses, make sure the water is very pure so it's boiled. And you can just like snip it off your hand, like especially if there's some infected sinuses or allergies. And then also salt water can be beneficial for the eyes, and you can rinse a wound with it. Really nice. So salt is an amazing antiseptic that's common wherever you go. Granted, some salts might have iodine in them. Some salts, like here in Costa Rica, they have fluoride in them. So, take that with a grain of salt. But just make sure though that your water is really pure. Like it's okay if you can't get the most amazing salt available to human beings at the time. If it's there, it's available to you, use it. Another very common one that you can find throughout Latin America, throughout Europe, as well as in North America, is yarrow. And so yarrow is a plant that is a mild antiseptic, useful for fever, useful for bleeding. And so like if you're a female traveling, also thinking about your reproductive health, not just making sure that you have condoms in your med kit, but also making sure that like if you are a heavy bleeder, if you really suffer from PMS, if you maybe you skip a period when you travel, yarrow can be very beneficial for bleeding. And so it's for heavy bleeding, and this is interesting for people who don't study herbalism yet. They get really confused, but it's for heavy bleeding as well as for very light bleeding. And so yarrow knows blood, and it will know exactly what to do. And you can use it in tea, as in tincture. All of these that I'm mentioning are in teas or tinctures. except for propolis. Propolis is going to be a liquid extract. And I highly recommend everyone have propolis in their kit. And then an analog to propolis for people if they don't want to be using bee products would be myrrh. And so myrrh is a gum resin from the myrrh tree, which is originally from the Middle East. And so it's found, again, Middle East, all throughout Europe, all throughout North America, and we can find it here in Latin America also. And then there's basic things like iodine and salt. You know, you could travel with a very little bottle of iodine because a few drops and you're going to disinfect everything. Maybe it could be a wound. Maybe, you know, you, with your toothbrush, even like sketchy water and you just want to disinfect things, like one drop will go really, really far. We're not ingesting iodine, but it's very useful to have. I always have a small bottle of that with me, as well as a small bottle of alcohol. You know, you could do isopropyl, you could do ethyl alcohol. Isopropyl alcohol is coming from petroleum and it's not available in a lot of countries. Like here in Costa Rica, you have to have a pharmaceutical license to buy it. Whereas like the ethyl alcohol is available and that comes from plant sources. So just a little bit of that, you know, because you dilute it and right there it's like you can disinfect. You can disinfect your tweezers. You got a really bad splinter, or someone that you're traveling with has a splinter. You don't want to just put your dirty tweezers that have been on your body into someone else's body. Right there, you can just spread microbiome as well as potential diseases. So really making sure that you're able to disinfect your tools if you're going to be sharing anything, but also on yourself, like before you dig into your body to pull out a splinter or whatever. So then when we have like immune support, echinacea is also immune support, but not as a preventative. Used mostly like the second you get sick, you start to take it. If you're going to be traveling with echinacea, you're going to need at least 4 ounces, depending on how long you're traveling. Like if you're going to be on the road for like over a month or a few months, it is available in a lot of countries, but I would make sure to have a little bit bigger bottle because 2 ounces of echinacea, it's like, that's your dose for like 3 days if you get really sick. So you want to have a little bit more, which is a limiting factor of echinacea, but it's also like, oh, it's so, so wonderful. Especially if you're in countries where like there's a lot of rogue dogs, you know, and if you're a little scared of packs of dogs and you're going to get bit, something like that, or you're going to be going to work on a farm, you know, and you like cut yourself, or there's potentially getting, you know, stung by scorpions or by ants or those kinds of things, echinacea can be very beneficial for denaturing the venom of those insect or animal bites. I've also used it for cat bites. It's awesome. Echinacea is super great. Usnea, which we already mentioned, also is immune supportive as well as being an antibiotic, and reishi mushroom. And so reishi is like preventative care. And so all the mushrooms like reishi, shiitake, cordyceps, maitake, turkey tail, there's all these fantastic mushrooms out there, which you can buy either in pills or in tinctures to support your system while you're traveling. And so these aren't used acutely. These are something you can take every day to stay well. And then some other immune support, stacking function plant, which also goes into digestive as well as respiratory, is licorice. And so licorice, when I say licorice, people are gonna be like, eh. Like some people don't like it. Some people are like, ooh, they really like it because they're associating licorice with like black licorice and like black jelly beans and Twizzlers and those kinds of things. But that's actually anise as the flavor. That's not actual licorice. Licorice sticks and licorice tincture just tastes sweet. It has no kind of anise or fennel flavor to it. So sometimes I won't even tell people it's licorice. I'll just call it glycyrrhiza, which means like sweet root, because it tricks them. Because people have like a psychosomatic thing of like they don't like licorice. So, but licorice sticks. If you want to travel with those, they're really nice for sore throat. They're going to help to strengthen the immune system, glandular system, as well as like keep the lungs what we call like soft. And so it can be really good. So like to keep the health